All right, welcome everybody. My name is Fausto from Cyber Trading, and I'd like to welcome everyone here on the Trading Podcast with Kathy, Lien, and Boris, my two favorite analysts. Known for so many years. Good to see you guys. Looking as good looking as always, Kathy. Looking very pretty. And Boris, how's it when you come into Long Island, moving over with us? So when you're going to cross over from the city? Always be nice to have you back.
I hide out in Jersey now, so I'm on the other side of the.
Yeah.
Look at the disgust on you, like Jersey.
Although I can tell Boris right now is in this New York City apartment, so you can't really get away from that.
Flooded with lights, just waiting for the sirens to kick in because it's only a matter of time before all the sirens start kicking in on Broadway.
Yeah. I can always tell with the high ceilings and everything else, so it looks pretty good. But anyway, guys, I'm so happy you all were able to make it here. And, we always did something a little bit different here. And I always want to we always do webinars a little bit more and we kind of do education. But, a lot of us just want to know exactly more about you guys and want to understand about the trading and how we got into it. There's just so much scrutiny, with us gurus out there. People are like, well, you're such a good trader. Why do you teach? And what do you do it? And it's like, they don't understand that it's more of us that we try to we hate people losing money. We hate people contributing. So, as we get started, just how did you guys get into this? What made you get into and started BKTraders?
Well, I think it's more of an evolution process. For me, trading has pretty much been the only thing I've done since coming out of college, both on a professional basis for a bank at JP Chase, where I started my career, and then later on for various Forex retail brokers, and then later on for BKTraders. So it's pretty much been the one thing that I've been doing for the past couple of decades. So for me, I can say that trading has always been my blood. Even during college, this is during the go-go days of the dot-com boom. I was day trading stocks, and my first internship was with a hedge fund manager, and he taught me technical analysis. So it's been what I've been doing all along, and I absolutely love it.
And how'd you guys both meet? I mean, how did it all come about? I mean, listen, I know when I first met you guys, we go back from FXCM. So which was, back in the Forex days. But how did you two guys meet?
Well, that's exactly where we met, right, Boris?
Yeah, we met at FXCM when it was just starting out, really, as a firm. At that time, Kathy was running Daily FX, which was one web page large, and I got hired to do actually the education piece of FXCM. They had a whole education they wanted me to run. And then we basically sort of, gravitated towards each other. We realized that we both had really complementary set of skills. And then she said, come join me on Daily FX. So I ran the night session, the overnight session, she ran the day session for years. And that's basically how I've always been, trading London. Even now, even though I trade the US session, I'm basically always on London time because I'm doing this for 20 years. And we started our collaboration. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I'm just you can tell who's the degenerate trader here and who's not. I'm the degenerate trader. I'm still scalping while you guys were talking. So we started our collaboration that time, and what's interesting is that I had come into FX from the stock background because I had worked for Drexel Burnham Lambert. I traded stock, indices, options, equities, just a very prototypical Wall Street background. And knew nothing about FX. And then I, came into FX, kind of really fell in love with FX, did that for many, many years. And now the irony of the whole thing is that, Kathy has always stayed with FX and I have completely abandoned it. Like a bad mistress. And now going right back to my original love, which is trading stock indices, which is what I do now.
So what have you noticed? You've trained thousands, tens of thousands of people over the years. I know you guys have been doing presentations on some of the biggest financial stations, but as much as we go out there and we present and we try to talk to the general public, it's funny because you get interviewed all the time, but these people weren't traders. You know what I mean? They're not like you and I. So we have a different type of mentality where we can kind of express them a little bit more what people need and what people don't. What do you find the biggest challenges that people have been having, over the years? What made you so good in being around for so long that helped, overcome those challenges that traders have?
Well, I personally think it's just building the discipline and building the confidence in your trading and your trading strategy. And yeah, I think a lot of traders, they come into the market not knowing exactly how to approach the market. And they're also taught, some textbook ways to approach the market, like 2-to-1 risk reward, or making sure that you stay true to your instrument or your setup. And a large part of that is valid, but I think with time you start to realize that what you're taught in the books is not necessarily the real way that real traders trade. And I think our longevity in the markets is recognizing that we don't need to have the perfect the perfect risk to reward ratio that that everyone tells you that you should have, but really what works effectively, because there's a very big difference, and I know that, Fausto, between what the way professional traders trade and the way new traders trade. And I think that I've just finished a new book called Prop Trading Secrets: How Successful Traders Live Off the Markets. And the majority of my traders, and even our older book, Millionaire Traders, the majority of the day traders, they recognize that the way to win is really about 1-to-1 risk reward and a high win rate, a high accuracy rate, rather than having a 30-40% risk win rate and then a 5-to-1 risk reward, for example. So I think a lot of people try to go for the big baggers, and they struggle as a result, because it doesn't always get there. Every single day you're in a trade, and maybe it will go 50, 60, 70% of your target and not quite get there. And you try to remain disciplined, and you try to sit there and say, I've got to keep my 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1 risk reward. And then you wait and you see your profits turn into even, and then turn into losses. And then you pound the table wishing you'd taken the profits. So learning how to manage that and creating a strategy that basically allows you to potentially benefit from a bigger move, but also being realistic about what the market can really give you on a day-to-day basis, I think is what, at least for me, has made me a good trader, and has made me been able to survive and thrive in this market. And I think that is also true for many of these successful traders that I've spoken to.
And Boris, you feel how do you feel? Same thing? I mean, because
I take it, whatever everything as Kathy is saying, as always, to the absolute extreme. So there is a great there's a great trader named Mark Weinstein out of the original Market Wizards books, and he talks about the idea of trading like a pigeon, that he eats like a pigeon. If so we're all city folk. If you ever watch how pigeons actually, oh, sorry, you guys?
I'm yelling at him for half his face being cut off.
I'm moving.
You're perfect.
Yes, you're perfect.
Tell me if I'm saying it. So, Mark Weinstein in Market Wizards talks about the idea of like eating like a pigeon. If you ever watch in the city streets how pigeons eat, they just peck at their food. And the thing that's amazing is that you can never run over a pigeon, right? You always see like taxi cabs, cars driving by. The pigeon will just peck, and the moment the cab comes around, he just flies away.
I never figured that one out.
Huh?
They're so talented.
They're so talented. Well, my approach to trading intraday is very similar. I'll take the smallest bites. You'll never kill me, because I'm never going to take very, very large risks or really, really huge losses. Now that means I have to do lots and lots of small pecks, but you will never kill me. And if you want to be a good day trader, that's a skill that that I try to teach everybody. They see me do this all the time because I trade live on YouTube 2 or 3 times a week. And, those are very important things. But the other thing that Kathy very much practices much better than I do, and really, I think is like the key to her long-term success, is she is absolutely the most disciplined person I've ever seen in my life. Like she hasn't changed her trading plan in 20 years I've seen her trade. She hasn't changed her indicators in 20 years that she's seen her trade. She's traded through an enormous amount of different type of markets, and she's always very confident in her approach. I think that's the other thing is, it's very, very easy to lose your confidence after 1 or 2 losses, right? And what she's very, very good at is being able to shake off. She'll have one bad week out of like 30, but the next day she comes in, it's like fresh, totally fresh.
Mhm.
Next Monday, she doesn't even know, and she starts with zero. I think having that attitude of just starting with zero and starting fresh is really important mentally, to do a good job.
You know, I've done so many of these podcasts, and I ask all us gurus the same question, and it seems like everyone has the same answer. It's all about discipline. It's all about controlling those small profits, just going out there and not hit these home runs, because everybody wants to hit those home runs, but they don't realize.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I do it all the time. I go on tilt all the time. Everybody, it's very, very hard to have that control, in your mindset.
I think what's valuable to talk about is what creates that discipline and where my discipline comes from, because I think it's very doable for everyone. The reason why I am so disciplined is because I've been trading my strategy for such a long time, and when I do have losing days, sessions, days, and I haven't had a losing week in 14 weeks, but and I'm going to knock on wood because I'm probably going to jinx myself, but when I do have those losing sessions, I get the confidence to keep going by looking at my overall results.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it comes from understanding having traded a trading strategy for so long. It comes from understanding your trading strategy inside and out. For example, my trading strategy is a momentum based trading strategy, and it's a trading strategy that is based on the premise that whatever is happening in the market will continue during the specific time of day that I trade. But however, there are some times where it doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, like last night, my trades didn't work out. And the reason for that is because we're moving into this US election, US presidential debate, US inflation grind. And it's understanding that, okay, sometimes the market is in a grind, there's no direction because, it's waiting for its new direction. And there will be some days, there'll be some weeks that's the case. And so when I, lost, and we made money this morning, but we lost money last night. When we do lose money, it's understanding that this type of environment happens. But because I've traded it for so long, I know that on average, this is not the type of normal market environment for me. Normally, we do get that continuation of momentum at the New York Open, at the Asia Open that I trade. But, there will be days, there'll be weeks, there'll be sessions where the market is waiting for that new direction. And that's okay, because when we get that new direction, we'll be, pounding the table with lots of great trading opportunities.
Which, that leads to a great question that you just brought up, because I was going to ask you that, both of you, is that the big news is now we have the debates tonight, right? And I always tell everyone, says, listen, this is not a Republican, a Democrat thing. We're traders. We're all the same party. Don't ever look at it where, we could have this, this argument why one person's right and one's wrong. But going into a debate, I tell everyone, like, I own Lockheed Martin. I have a big position in it. I did really well with it. But, all these wars, like, it could affect that stock. I want to hear what they have to say, like who's with one, who's the other. Like, you talk about Forex, like how are they going to deal with the foreign policies? So what do you think people should be looking into and listening to, and how it would affect the market, with certain stocks? Like there was, I was talking, like this morning, I was talking to Josh. Josh is, Josh is one of my top instructors here. And we were talking about just like this whole of wealth, they want to tax you on gains that,
I think that is probably the most problematic proposal, and one that Kamala Harris has been really, really roundly criticized for. I don't think it has a snowball's chance in hell of passing, because there's just, I think, enormous amount of fear. People don't like the idea of being taxed on phantom income, because it is exactly that. It's phantom income, and there's the big example is, well, I own a house. It's $1 million house. Next year, it's $1.5 million.
The same example.
It's $1.5 million. I owe like 20% on that $500,000. The year after that, it's back to $1 million. Do I have to go back to the IRS to recover my money? Nobody wants to recover. Once you give up money, nobody ever gives money back, right? So people have this enormous fear. I think it's a non-starter. But the tax point, the whole tax component, is going to be an interesting conversation. She has really changed her approach to become much more pro-business in this campaign. Like, if you look at how her position was when she was a senator, and prior to that, it was a much, much more liberal record. I think she realizes that in order to make herself viable as a candidate. She has to become much more pro-business oriented. So we have to see. She's made proposals about giving small businesses investment credits, all sorts of other stuff. It'll also be interesting to see how former President Trump deals with the tariff issue. People have raised the issue that yes, well, when he was president before, tariffs weren't a big thing. But now that we have inflation, maybe tariffs are going to be a big thing. It's going to be, right. I think it's going to be interesting to see how both sides handle the tough questions, whether they're able to respond to the criticism of their policies, because, otherwise we all know it's just going to be insults hurling back and forth from both sides. But it'll be interesting to see if any of them can handle, interesting, critical questions of both of their positions. Yeah.
Well, Boris, you bring that up because today, we were trading this morning. A bunch of stocks have taken, like a whole industry was taking a big hit. I don't know if it has something to do about which all the bank stocks. Have you seen all the bank stocks like Ally, ALLI,
right.
With New York Community Bank,
right.
Citibank. They're all taking they all took big hits. I mean, they're on the big percentage gainers, losers too. I mean. Right. So
right.
I mean,
I don't know why. Maybe fear of the yield curve now reinverting, and that they're afraid that we may be going into a recession, and banks obviously always very vulnerable to that. I don't know anything.
Fed rates would be more about Fed rates, raising the Fed rate, lowering the rates.
I don't think there's anything in either political party's agenda that's incredibly toxic towards banks. But maybe the market is seeing something I'm not. But yeah, it's interesting. How what's more interesting is your bet on defense stocks. I mean, I think it's going to be really, really difficult to imagine a calm, peaceful world for the next 2 years, right? I think that's whoever is going to be president is going to be facing some very, very difficult geopolitical concerns, especially if we have terrorism in the Red Sea continuing, going back and forth. So defense stocks are, whether we like it or not, are going to be an interesting trade, I think.
Well,
I have to jump in here. Boris and I are on, and you too are on TV all the time on CNBC. And I think that this is where the sensationalism is far less. The sensationalism is far less interesting than what we will actually do as traders. This is no different than asking us, is gold going to 2,000 or 3,000 first? So, yes, it's an interesting philosophical argument. And, CNBC or any media shop will probably, love to have us on to talk about these sensational levels and what could happen after the election, the debate, if Harris or Trump wins the debate. But at the end of the day, all three of us are traders. And I think we recognize the fact that we're not looking for the next 500 to 500 point move. We're looking for the next, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 ticks or pips in my case. And so, it's going to be far less about, because at the end of the day, these debates don't have a long-term impact on the markets because, there's still a lot that needs to be hashed out. Most likely there's going to be no clear victor. And we've got the inflation report the next day. We've got the FOMC meeting the following week. The market's just going to shift its focus away from the debate very, very quickly. So perhaps, in the morning of tomorrow morning, we're all going to be laser focused on, what's said and isn't said. But as traders, I think it's very important to recognize that it's far less about their policies, about, what Boris said about capital gains or, the defense stocks is an interesting play. But as traders, we're just going to react to the outcome. And so for me, I always trade after the events. I'm always just reacting because you don't need to guess about what happens. And as a main takeaway, the main thing that I think will be the main takeaway is that the market is going to move on. It's going to move on to the inflation report. It's going to move on to the FOMC meeting. It's not going to care about the debate unless someone has a terrible, outlier performance, which I don't think is going to be the case. I think, it's going to probably be a wash. That whoever's going to support Harris is still going to support Harris. Whoever's going to support Trump is still going to support Trump. I think it really goes back to what is ultimately moving the markets. And we see this, Fausto, all the time with geopolitical risks, with wars, where we think it's going to have a huge impact on the markets. And once the market impact is to be short-lived, just like the debate will be short-lived. So as traders, I think it's much more to focus on what the what's the next story and what's really been driving the markets. I think, we lose the debate is sensational to talk about, but I think at the end of the day, it's not going to be what the market really cares about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what's going to end up happening, like they're just going to say what they can say just to get political points to kind of get more votes. Whatever is like, what's the flavor of the day? That they need to kind of get over the hump to get that extra point. But like you just said, it all comes down to the fact is the numbers. You know what I mean? Like it's all about those reports that come out. Those don't lie. You can't lie about that. Ooh, sorry about that. Those don't lie. So we'll keep an eye on that. But getting back to regarding about BKTraders. So what do you guys are now? So what do you recommend that people should focus on? Like, what are you guys working on? As in with your training or what you've been talking about and kind of get traders used to kind of succeed. Going into this election year or going into 2025, because some people think I'm going to hit inflation. I mean, I know, Kathy, you're always online. I mean, your content is fabulous. And if no one here has not registered yet, you should be on her Twitter. You should be on her Instagram. You should be on her, her YouTube. I mean, you guys make some great videos. And the people realize that you got to listen over and over and over again. But I always notice you're always ahead of the curve. And I think that's where you just mentioned, it's not what's in the past, it's in the future. I mean, earnings came out. Okay, it's over. Okay, what are they projecting now? What's going on? And that's the effect. But what are you guys working on now? Anything new?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things that we're working on. I mean, first off, I think the one thing that we're always doing, at least what I'm doing, is kind of emphasizing the importance of fusing fundamentals with technicals with the market sentiment. Understanding, each piece of the puzzle and helping more and more people kind of wrap their heads around it. Because people, like you said, the election and the debate is important, but there's always an evolving story, and learning how to stay on top of that evolving story, learning about what really moves the markets. We at BK were all over the yen trades this morning, selling euro yen and Swiss yen and dollar yen, and learning to do that with the correlations between the bond market and the FX market, and trying to understand, how to take that fundamental, changes and fundamental ideas and the sentiment of the market and combining it with our technical analysis. And I think, more and more traders are realizing, everyone realizes that the story matters, the fundamentals matter. They just don't know how to wrap their heads around it. So I'm continuously trying to drill down that message and trying to, get people to really understand that. Secondly, and I'll let Boris speak, the prop trading space has exploded. So I've got a brand new book with lots of really great traders that I've spoken to that share their journey as well as their strategies on how to become, a part or full-time prop trader, how to live off the markets, because we're in an economic environment where people are starting to lose their jobs. They're starting to struggle. They're starting to, feel the need to find alternative income and to create an alternative income flow for them. And there's been this great opportunity that has really surfaced over the past couple of years, where you don't need to trade with your own money. You can spend a little bit of money and try to pass the test with some of these prop firms. It's become very popular, and trade with their money. And that's what Boris has been doing every single day with our traders, and trying to get more and more people on board with this, because it's not everyone has the capital, has 10, 20, 40, $50,000 or even $100,000 to trade. And, you can control that same amount of equity with some of this opportunity that is being provided. So if you want to share a bit about that, Boris.
Yeah, I got to tell you, professionally, nothing has been more gratifying than me getting into the prop trading space, because I don't think I've helped more people per, pound of minute or per 1 minute chart than I have in prop trading. Because, prop trading is, as Kathy is saying, it's an incredibly great way for somebody who doesn't have a lot of capital to come into the market and then hopefully get funded. Generally, the rule of thumb is it's harder to get into the Ivy League school than it is to get funded in a prop account. It's about a 4% pass rate. However, I've been working by, one of the things I've done is I've taught myself how to code using GPT. And because I'm a trader, not a coder, I was able to take a lot of my trading concepts, put them into TradingView, be able to code some very, very, very simple but very powerful indicators. and teach those simple but very sophisticated and consistent strategies to all these traders. And I got to tell you, nothing has been more rewarding than to see 70% of the people who come into our chat room pass their prop test. And now we're actually to the second level, where not only have they passed the prop tests, but they're now getting paid out. And then now I'm seeing paychecks coming in. And that's just honestly the single most satisfying thing in the world, to actually see people, without really risking a dollar of their own capital, be able to trade the market. And as Kathy said, make money off the market. That's been super, super valuable. And I trade live at least 2 or 3 times on YouTube, so everybody can come watch us. If you subscribe to our BKTraders YouTube channel, you'll get notified every single day that I'm live trading. Kathy joins me a lot. She'll probably be joining me tomorrow for CPI. So the other thing you were asking us about, like sort of what keeps us longevity, is we trade every single day. It's like I always say, it's like it's like playing tennis, it's like playing golf. You've got to hit the strokes. Yeah. What makes us unique is that we don't talk about the market. We don't talk about yesterday's chart, or look how beautiful everything looks, from support resistance from 3,000 years ago, and look how I could have taken this trade and how my setup would have worked. We trade the right side of the chart, the hard part, the unknown part, the uncertainty, and we do it every single day. And I think that's given us a lot of, obviously a lot of confidence, but also a lot of credibility that we know we're doing. And when people see what we're doing and they're learning it, and then they're adapting it to their own personal style, that's when you really get this great combination of reward and people really succeeding. So I'm very, very, very happy to have come across this industry. I wrote, Kathy's obviously has a great interview book, but we also have a free prop trading guide. I'm happy to give you the links to that. And you guys can download it and read all about the business, understand exactly how the whole structure works, what the key points are. It's a 55-page guide with all the glossary, all the terms, everything in there. So love to it's our gift to everybody in the world. So we're very, very big on this particular sector of the business, and I'm having just the blast every single day with it. I myself have passed like 5 accounts. Right now I'm working on passing 2 $250,000 accounts live in YouTube day to day. It's a long-term process, and we get then after that we're going to trade those actual accounts in live environment, get paid out. Maybe
So just to clarify, our YouTube account is YouTube/BK4X, not BKTraders. So that's the way you find us.
Yeah, we'll post it in the chat right here so people can copy and paste it. And once again, everyone, we're going to have this recorded so you can watch it over again. But Boris, why don't you come and show us a little bit more? Maybe you can share your screen of the strategy that you're doing and exactly what's going on so people could see it. There we go. We have it up there for them.
Okay, hang on. So I am going to. Are we sharing my screen now?
No, I'll share it right now. There you go.
Okay. So before I sort of talk a little bit about what we're doing here, you can see this is my BK scalper indicator that I wrote myself, and you can see that it has all sorts of really simple but very clean scalping signals. This is on this left side is the S&P 500, the ES that we trade for like 1 point per scalp. This is retrace trade, so every green triangle is basically a buy point. You can see, what to show you what kind of a degenerate I am. I'm like, holy cow! During live we had no price action. While I'm talking to you guys, it could have been like about 6 or 7 trades I could have done right now to to make money. But it is what it is. But you can see how well these indicators are doing, and this is the momentum signal showing us the same kind of a thing. And we obviously have a whole methodology. We explain how it works, but you can see that the indicators are very simple, but they're very, very accurate in terms of telling you when to enter, what the good sides are. And you can also see that I'm basically staying on the right side of the moving average all the time. That's the key thing. You're staying on the right side of the trend as the trend occurs. That's where all the money is made. So there's lots of fun as far as that goes. Come join me every single day, and you can see exactly what we do. But maybe Kay, should we talk a little bit about what we do?
Yeah, the thing is that let's show slide number. Let's talk a little bit about why prop is so popular. But I want to talk about slide number 3 for a minute, just to give people some understanding about whether or not prop trading is right for them. It's a very new concept, and there's a lot of people who are just trading prop exclusively. Some people are trading prop They're broker exclusively, and some people are trading, prop and their broker. So you can't see all of this because I think some of our images are hiding the bottom. But the question about whether or not prop trading is right for you really has to start with, do you have enough money to trade? Or do you want to risk your capital? So, you ask yourself, do you have enough funds to trade? And if your answer is yes, that's great. But can you risk these funds? Or do you want to save these funds for your rainy day funds? If you can risk the capital, great, good luck with that. If you can't risk the capital, then you should ask yourself, do you have the patience and discipline to trade? And if you think that you have the patience and discipline to trade, and you can, and you want to maybe spend a couple $100 to be able to pass a test from these prop firms, prove to them that you can make money. And usually, their rules are somewhere between make 8 to 10% without losing 4 to 5%. For example. And there's usually no time limit to this. So if you can prove to them that you have the patience and discipline to make 8 to 10% without losing 4 to 5% of their demo capital, then they will create an account for you and provide the funds for you to trade. Now, of course, if you don't have the funds to trade at all, and then you may want to consider some of these prop trading firms, because then you can use their funds to be able to trade. And usually what they offer is you can earn somewhere between 80 to 100% of the profits that are made in the account. So the upside is quite generous, whereas the downside is usually just the fee.
The entrance fees.
I'm sorry, what's that?
The entrance fees. The upside, the downside is just basically the cost of passing this test, which are a couple of $100 at most. So it's very capitated. It's a really, really great skew between the risk that you're going to put up versus the possible reward you can get.
So in the Forex CFD space, for example, you'll be spending somewhere between $250 to $350 to control maybe $50,000 worth of capital. And usually in the Forex CFD space, it's a one-time fee. You have an unlimited amount of time to trade the demo, pass the challenge, and get funded. On the future space, if you want to talk about that, it's a different model, but a slower entry price. A lower entry price, correct? Am I correct, Boris?
Yeah, the future space, which is the space that we trade right now primarily, has a really much. So to give you an idea of the difference, 100,000 in CFD space costs you about $500, maybe $400 to try to get that account. $100,000 account in futures can be discounted to as little as $100. As a matter of fact, I'm trading two $250,000 accounts, each one of them, because of a special discount is only $50 to buy it. And so the entries for futures are much easier. They also have generally better or easier risk reward structures where, for example, in the futures space, you have to make 6%, lose 5% versus, on the larger sizes, you maybe have to make like 10%, lose 6%. So it's still a little bit better. On the CFD side, it's usually you have to make 10%, lose 5%. It's a much more difficult barrier to go through. But each one of them has its own advantages and disadvantages. We like to trade futures, and we find that to be a really, really good fit for everybody in my group. And it's sort of the other thing that's sort of interesting is on the future side, the difficult part is something called trailing equity. So in other words, if you're 5% towards your target, right, your stop is no longer, your stop moves along with your profit. So they're kind of trailing your stop, which is another reason why so many people that I counsel and I coach pass the prop test is precisely because we focus so assiduously on making sure that we lose a tiny amount on every single trade. The biggest way most people actually lose their money is they take large size, they get up very, very close to target, and then one bad trade and they get stopped out on this trailing equity stuff. We never come close to getting stopped out on trailing equity stuff because we're just getting, like we have a $6,000 budget and our losses are $400. So, we can get stopped out many, many times before ever losing the account. And that really helps to manage yourself towards the target. No time limits, 89%. As a matter of fact, in the future space, the first $25,000 that you can achieve once you're funded. In other words, if you're funded with an account and you've reached $25,000 in payouts, all of that, 100% of it goes to you, which is really, really amazing. So, those are all incredibly powerful reasons why Prop is so popular. There is no risk besides the initial test fee to yourself. I can't tell you how many times, I'm sure many of you have done this. Unfortunately, I've been guilty of this very much. You have your own account, right? You're in a trade goes against you. Let's say you have $10,000 account, and then you're like, you know what? I know this trade is going to turn around. I'm going to drop another $10,000 into the account to hold margin, to withhold the adverse movement of the market, so that I can survive the adverse movement, and then the market turns around, I'm going to be rich again, right? And how many times have we burnt 10, 20, 30, 40? I'm sure all of you guys in the room are shaking your heads because we've all done this. It's just, part and parcel of the business. What's great about Prop is, yes, you can fall into the same toxic spiral, but the difference is instead of you dropping $10,000 of your own money, you're just dropping $35 of an interest fee. So think about a difference. Okay, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I went on one side of my account. I went a little bit on tilt. I burned 2 accounts. It cost me $35 to restart those accounts. Now, had I done this myself, we all know it would have been a lot more money. That's why it's such a popular, enterprise. It gives you many, many, many more chances to succeed at the game at very, very low cost, very cost efficient that way. This is, just sort of all of the certificates that I've been able to pass through. I have right now inventoried 5 accounts. As I said, I'm working on getting 2 more, and then we're going to go trade all of these accounts live in the exact same way that have gotten funded. And that's going to be, I think, really, really cool. But what really gives me tremendous amount of pleasure is, you see, these are all the people in my room that have gotten funded for large amounts of money, 200,000, 250,000, 300,000. And this is just a tiny, tiny smattering of all the traders in my room that have been funded and have gotten, paid out. And of course, now they're all getting paid out. Like this gentleman, has about $3 million worth of funding under his auspices. And imagine getting 3, 5, 10,000. And the way they pay them out, by the way, is another good thing, I think, in many ways, is even if you have like 10,000 in profits, they don't give it to you all at once. They parse it out on a month-to-month basis, so that you don't burn your capital right away. So all of this has just been an incredibly powerful way of winning and capitalizing in the market without having to expose your own capital to the risk of the market. We all know that it's very, very hard. I've gotten some really, really nice comments. This gentleman has been trading for like 20 years. And he said this is the first time in 20 years that he's actually felt like a winner, and he's been super, super grateful. He's gotten funded, he's getting paid out, and it's just been, again, a pleasure to do this. If you guys put your phone to this, if you want to just simply scan, you'll be able to get the link of our coaching services, which is Pass the Prop. So this is what I basically started. I said, look, traders need a organized, methodical coaching program, and it's going to have 3 ingredients to make it successful. Number 1, you got to give them the tools, and I showed you my trading indicator tools. So you have to have tools that will help you generate good quality signals. We all need good quality signals. So that I worked very, very hard on that. I created those tools. Number 2, you got to show people how to use those tools, just like a tennis coach who tells you how to hit a stroke, right? They're going to stand with you and they're going to hit those strokes. You're going to hit those strokes. You're going to hit those strokes. What I do every day in live and then in our own chat rooms is I trade live and I show over and over and over and over again how to hit that stroke, how to make that perfect forehand, how to take that perfect setup over and over again, because then it becomes muscle memory. Then it becomes much easier to actually acquire the skill. And then it's almost instinctive. Like people will say, they'll see me, I'll say, we have something setting up, and I'll, without even thinking about it, I'll be pressing the button because we all know the setup. We all know how it happens. And, when you're trading scalping, you really need to be very, very fast. So making that almost intuitive, just like the way a good tennis player makes an intuitive forehand, is really, really important. That's when you begin to understand what trading is all about. And then the third component, I think, that really has been helpful is once a week, we get together and we have a coaching session, and we talk about everything under the roof, how everybody's doing, how everybody's modifying my approach, because nobody hits the forehand the same way twice, right? Everybody's unique in the world. They all have their own approaches to how you want to hit the trade. You have a general idea of what you should be doing, but you're going to make it very personal. In fact, if you don't make it personal, you probably won't be successful. You have to make it your own. So we talk about that, and then we talk about all the new techniques. There's nothing better than having a whole bunch of people who are doing something, coming up with interesting new tweaks and ideas that help you both pass these props and then also get funded. So, the setup is really, really simple. Spend $50, get funded for $250,000, trade, and then get paid out. That's the plan. It's a really clean, simple plan. There is no wrinkles in it. As long as you can achieve the first goal, you can then go on to the second goal, and then the third goal takes care of itself. Everything is all sweet. So that's the pass the prop structure that we're going to be. We had a very, very successful spring. We had a successful summer season, and now we're going to have the fall. Kate hates what she says. It's a season. She says, it's not a TV show, but it's kind of like it feels very much like more like a team gathering event than anything else. So we're going to have our spring kickoff, spring cycle, starting in about 2 weeks. So if you guys are interested in coming to hang out with us, absolutely. This is great for people. Like, I'll tell you, this one person, this is one of my most sort of proudest moments. Jeanette, this lady literally has never traded anything in her life. Never traded anything in her life. Can you imagine that? She's not like, she knew everything about stocks or markets or level 2 or anything else, never looked at a chart, right? And was just able to come in and be able to get funded for $250,000. That's just such a great thing. And that's what's so beautiful about this. The whole idea is, if you're a seasoned pro, we can talk to you. If you're a new trader, we can talk to you. It's all a lot of fun. That's the pass the prop. That's really the child that I've been working on and putting all my energies into. So that's what's going on with us.
No, it looks pretty interesting, Boris. I know Bob, whatchamacallit, prop was very big back in the 2000s, but it looks like it's making a little bit of a comeback. So that's pretty good on that.
It's made a huge comeback because it's become a very different model. In the olden days, it was the firm that would put up their money. They would kind of keep you on, inside their house. And, they would pay you like maybe 10% of the funds traded. This is completely different. This is basically the model here is obviously it's like a university model. Everybody, the firms make a lot of their money from tuition, and very few people pass it. But if you have the right coaches, like I said, the key thing that's really, really amazing about us is it's a 4% pass rate for regular Joe traders. It's a 70% pass rate with the tools and the coaching that we give you. So that makes it really, really much more valuable to come and try it out.
All right, cool. So like you said, we got the link up there. If you guys want to know more about it, you got the QR code, and you go from there. So to wrap things up, just really quick, I always like to end off a couple of fun little things everybody here wants to know about.
Okay.
And just want to do a quick little rapid fire with you guys regarding about trading and stuff like that. So what I was going to ask you guys. So what was the most memorable things that ever happened with both of you in trading?
Oh my God, so many. We've traded. I've traded. I'm so old that I've traded to the 1987 stock market crash, which is still, I think, the most surreal experience of my life.
Wow, really?
So because to put this in modern terms, imagine the Dow Jones losing 10,000 points, not 1,000 or 2,000, 10,000 points in one afternoon. That's what it was like, relative basis. So it was just, that was probably the most insane experience of my life. And I was very young, so I didn't know anything. So it was like, I knew it was a very special moment, but it was like living in wartime. I was just, blown away by that. So I don't know. I wonder what Kathy's, big trade event was.
Well, I don't have any, a single big trade. It's all about the consistency. Of course, there are times where, in my own stock account, when the markets crashed, I picked, bottoms there. But I think my most memorable trading experience did not have anything to do with my own trading, but actually Boris's. And I did not believe it. He has no idea what I'm talking about, but
No, no
I
idea.
did not believe him. But he actually thought that the Swiss National Bank was going to break the peg. I doubted him. I didn't think it was possible. And, obviously many firms and people were not prepared. He, said to me that he thinks it's going to happen. I think he even said it publicly at the time, that they were going, that they were going to let the peg go. And I think you were even positioned for it.
Yeah.
And that came, even to me, that came from complete left field, that the Swiss National Bank was going to let that happen. And as some people may remember, that caused, major losses for a lot of Forex brokers. And it was a seminal event in the markets. And he kind of saw it happening, and, I didn't. And I think that has ingrained a bit more skepticism in me for central bank policy and pegs being able to break than I had in the past.
Yeah, you definitely learn from those crazy stories. I mean, I can go
Yeah.
on and on and on. I mean, I was back in '87, but I was there for the internet bubble. I mean, we can always talk about that. You had the Hurricane Sandy, you had the financial crisis. I mean, you said that you saw the Dow like being down 10,000. I mean, I had a picture, when COVID hit, and I'm sitting at my friend's restaurant at lunchtime. I was so hungover that I took a picture. The Dow was down like 3,000. And that was just like, it was just unheard of. But I mean, listen, we all have great stories, and you learn from it though. You learn from it, and that's the beauty of it. And it's gonna happen again. It's gonna happen again. But I always tell everybody those catastrophes, because we never talk about the good ones. We always remember the worst ones. You learn. You know what? They make opportunities, and that's what happens.
100%. And I think you're absolutely right that the longer you're in it, the more the more inured you become to all. Like, you've seen the stress before. It may be a different story, it may be a different narrative, but pretty much how the story goes. We've all seen the massive sell-offs, the huge volatility, and we know that at this point it's much more important to step back. Like, it's not a time to go in there and pick up a nickel in front of a locomotive. This is the young us may have been willing to dive into a 10,000 point or 3,000 point crash. But we've all learned that it's all going to calm down. And when it does, the opportunities will be there in a much more calmer fashion.
Yeah, it's like anything else, like being a fireman, where they talk about like,
Exactly.
what will fire you in. But as traders, that's what we have. Which leads me to the, just two more questions really with you guys. But like, with that said, I always ask everyone, like, so what's your favorite book or movie that you recommend? Because I have my favorite. I always tell everyone, because listen, we're traders and they're out there. What do you guys recommend that people should do as new traders or existing traders? Because that's how you kind of learn. What's your favorite book or favorite movie?
You want to go first, Kay?
No.
Okay. I have the answers to all of it. So I actually have two Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd.
That was
probably
funny.
the greatest trading movie, precisely because it's so accurate in the olden days when pit trading was available, and just exactly all the manipulations that happened. It's a funny comedy, but it's also a really good trading movie. And obviously Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd are just awesome in that. The other movie that I absolutely love is, I think it's called Margin Call. It's with Jeremy Irons.
I didn't see that one.
And it's the guy who I forget. The guy who plays Spock on Star Trek, and all of his good, but the Jeremy Irons scene in there where Kevin Spacey, where he talks about the idea that money isn't real, is probably the greatest description of what finance is all about. And like,
right.
When you kind of understand that, you kind of really, it really does that. So that's, and as far as my favorite books, I still absolutely love the Market Wizards series. You
had somebody ask you in the trading room that question too. Where'd he go?
There's also the one other book from like the 80s that's an absolutely great read, because if you sort of want to understand the travails of an individual trader and how he was so far ahead of his time, is a book called Pitbull by Marty Schwartz, who was sort of like the first really great off the pit, upstairs S&P pit trader. And it's just, really, really fun read. Really, really great read. I think it's, even though it was written in the 80s, you can relate to a lot of stuff that he talks about in there.
So, I would recommend Trading in the Zone. And I also really like a book that's not really trading related, but it's called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, The Power
Okay.
of Thinking Without Thinking. And, this is not a pitch, but I had just done a show with Charles Schwab called The Mind of a Trader. And they basically interviewed me, and they had me do an MRI scan, a brain scan, where when I was in the brain scan, they would ask me trading related questions. And what was really interesting was that my brain activity during trading related questions was very minimal, whereas my brain
That's
activity,
weird.
my brain activity, if my brain activity, during question of, do I want a green popsicle or a red popsicle, was much more active than whether I want to take this trade or not. And I think it kind of has to deal with the book, where sometimes you're so ingrained when you're thinking about things that you're so that you do every single day, that you are so familiar with, that it becomes almost second nature. And that's the way your trading should be. Where when you have a trading strategy, you do the setup. You shouldn't even need to think about it. The setup is there. You take it. And I think that's shown through my brain scans, which is that when I have the trading choice, it's second nature. I don't even think about it. Whereas a green popsicle, red popsicle, I have to think about the flavors, what it tastes like. When it's different things that are much more involved than with trading for me, at least in my brain. And I think the book kind of talks about a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was talking about, hitting the tennis stroke or hitting a golf stroke. When you do it 1,000 times, it becomes instinctual, and that's that's very much that. By the way, notice how interesting that Kathy, of course, chooses books that are on discipline, and I choose books that are all about trading battle stories and trading war stories.
It must be a guy or girl thing, because like even with me, like my favorite book I tell everyone is The Big Short. I thought it was a great movie.
Read that.
Phenomenal movie. My favorite book was, like, back in my old days, was The Souls Band with Harvey Halkin. So everybody wants to know how day traders actually ever started.
Right.
That was been great. But listen, that's what's great about Everyone Loves What They Need to Hear, because they got to see that we never stop learning, and you always learn. We always have a different way of looking at things. But that's pretty funny that you were on the Schwab. I saw that you had that interview with Schwab, and they did that. I thought it was just more of an interview. I didn't know they were sitting there trying to, they were doing some reality check on your brain or something. That's pretty. I don't know if that's spooky or cool or whatever, but I gotta watch that episode again. One last question for all of you before I let you guys go. It's not a trading question, but if you were not a trader, what do you see yourself doing today? Would you have done differently?
Well, I think, my only hobby is cooking. So I don't think I want to, have a restaurant or cook at a restaurant, but I think maybe some sort of social media content producer for cooking, where I can, cook and admire my cooking, where I don't have to deal with, the long hours of working at a restaurant. I would love to do. And that's probably the only other thing that I really love. And my children,
honestly, it's literally the same thing for me. I don't have any other hobbies. Literally, I do like to cook. Fausto, I was like, for the longest time, I used to joke around that, when I retire, I'm going to go to Florida. I'm going to open up a restaurant called Jews Cook Italian.
Yeah.
And show you up on all of my Italian dishes. But I was like, now at this point, I'm like, nah, I'm never going to open a restaurant. I know how much of a pain in the butt it is, but that would be the fun thing to do. I definitely enjoy, obviously, there's actually, I worked in restaurants in my youth. I got to tell you, there's an enormous amount of similar energy, in the back of the house. If you ever worked in restaurants, you know how insane the back of the house can be. And that same energy, when I went to work on Wall Street, was very much present on the trading floor. So it's I think there's a lot of similarities in those places. You have to make fast decisions under lots of pressure.
Well, listen, Boris, what you could do if you want, you all know I got a home cooking channel, Fausto Home Living. So, Kathy, you know what? Maybe we'll do an episode really quick.
Maybe I actually would love to do. You could have me as a guest, and I'll share my puttanesca recipe with you. Maybe we'll cook together.
We'll do a quick little video. We'll do a little cooking video. Then maybe we'll slap a tray left and right, and maybe not get distracted. But to me, it's just great therapy. You know what I mean? I always tell everyone, you got to get your mind away from something. And like you said, people love cooking. Who does not like food and cooking? And anyone could cook. If you love what you do, you eventually figure it out. You'll never figure out the first time, second time. It's like a trade, but you keep making, you'll perfect it. You know what I mean? But no, it's definitely a lot of fun, and I think we're going to do that.
I would say that a recipe is very similar to a setup, right? There's a sequence of events. sequence of things you got to follow in order to do it properly, and that's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're not baking. Baking's like a
Oh
science.
yeah, I
No,
can't. I can't do
forget
one
baking. I
baking.
hate baking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cooking is they say cooking is an art, baking is a science, and I'm definitely not a science.
I'm not a science guy. Well, guys, listen, thank you so much for being here. And everyone, we will have this recorded. We'll send out some clips for everyone that are registered. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And like I said, we'll have those videos out to everyone if you want to watch little short little clips of it and everything else. Kathy, Boris, thanks for having us, having being here, and look forward to having you again. Good luck at trading, and we'll see how tomorrow ends up with the if this we'll see what happens tonight.
Probably Kathy is right. Nothing much is going to happen on debate, but CPI is going to move stuff around. We're going to live stream. If you guys want to come join us, it's going to be 8:15 on our YouTube channel. Just come in anytime. We'll hang out with you and we'll live trade.
All right. Great. Well, thanks guys for being here, and enjoy the rest of your day. And happy trading, everyone. Trade safe.
Take care.
Thank you.